Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the first ever 21st episode of Baseball versus the World, a podcast about how baseball relates to the world and how, of course, the rest of the world relates to baseball, part of the Just Baseball Media Network. I am your host, as always, and guide on this maiden voyage through the vast cosmos of all things baseball, from the nerdy to the quirky to the pop culture, whatever it is. Javier Reyes, staff writer here at justbaseball.com, as well as the host of the Locked On Padres podcast. You can check me out on Twitter/X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, Javiiipeno. And today, as I've said many times, I only allow illustrious guests on this show. I refuse to have anything below that. I'm being joined by a bit of a new one, someone who certainly is a baseball fan, but someone, get this, who is making baseball games. It is the creator of the new iOS, Android mobile game sensation, Bitball, Mr. Matt. How are you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for having me, man. Happy to be here.
And I'm happy to have you here, man. And I'm really excited to talk about this. We're going to be getting into the creation of the game and all that sort of stuff, how that's gone about, and how I first discovered the game. And then, because you know what, this is a podcast where we like having things for social too. We like making cool graphics. We're going to be talking about our 5 favorite features, game modes, things of all baseball video games, right? Like specific ones, whatever. I promise you, I have some weird ones. Matt says, because he is, after all, the literal creator here. So I'm curious to see what he says about all that. But Matt, first, let me just start off and say, man, like, good job. I think that's the way I'm going to start. Like, just amazing stuff. I'm in awe always of anyone who creates, frankly, a painting of like 3 dots. I'm amazed by, like, I don't care what it is, any creative, but you went out and made this baseball game. It is a simulation game for those who don't know. Everybody can check out the links in the description for links to whatever your platform is, Android, iOS, whatever. You can go check that out. A simulation baseball game, basically. And it is in the 8-bit sort of style. Of course, it is not literally an NES game in that regard, but I'm a big fan of like pixel art and all that stuff too. I want to just ask you, first of all, like, just the quick synopsis of like how you got into this and like what made you so passionate to not just make this game, but why specifically to make a baseball game?
Yeah. Trying to keep it quick.
Oh, no rush, man.
Okay,
all the time
cool.
of the world. All the time of the world.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing baseball since I was like 4 years old. So like my dad tells me the story of like when I was like 4, he got me this little T-ball wiffle ball thing, and it was like you press the button and it would go click, 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 and it would pop a ball up in the air. And then, you could hit it. And they were just little plastic wiffle balls. And he showed me how to do it once. And then he handed me the bat. I pressed on the button, ball popped up, and I just smoked it. So he was like, okay, this kid likes baseball. And so, growing up playing T-ball, Little League, all that stuff, like played up until high school. And then like physically, I was pretty small in high school, so I couldn't really keep up. But I've been a Diamondbacks fan my entire life. I just can't get enough of it. I watch as many games as possible as I can every year. And so when I went to college, I got into programming. And once I graduated, I was like, I want to make a game. I don't know how. And I downloaded Unity probably 3 or 4 times in the years.
For the casuals out there, what exactly is Unity?
Unity is the game engine software. Yep. So like how the tool that I used to make the game. And I would play around with it for 15 minutes, and then I would just completely disheartened and throw it away, and then not touch it for like years. And then 2021, we're in this like kind of weird COVID era. A buddy of mine was like, hey, play this game. And it was Retro Bowl.
Right.
And I got like hooked, like playing until 2 a.m. on my phone in bed, kind of thing. And at that same time, I was still kind of playing around with this idea in my head of like a card-based game, kind of like a deck building game. Me and some friends have been playing D&D, and so I was like, you could do like dice rolls and you'd build your deck and play against other people. But I just couldn't see it. And then
Mhm.
I was playing Retro Bowl one day, and I was like, oh my god, like this is it. This is the formula. This is, and I was like, I think Retro Bowl was so well done and like simplified in a way that it
Mhm.
felt feasible. Felt like, oh, I could figure out how to do that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah,
three and a half years
especially
later,
it's worth noting, Matt,
yeah,
this is a one-man team. Like,
one
let me
man
be very
team.
clear about that for those people. Like, it's
Yeah,
not, this is not Ubisoft, right? And that is not
no.
an insult whatsoever. I don't know why they came to mind. I've been playing Beyond Good and Evil
We're
lately.
big. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's why Beyond Good and Evil's been on my mind. But like this is a one-person job, and I'm wondering before I let you get back to it, was part of this, you mentioned the pandemic, was like that part of the reason that you were able to like get more into it, that you just had more time at your place?
yeah. I think so. Just because we weren't doing as much, and so
Mhm,
um, nights, weekends, and stuff like that. Like I didn't have much going on. At that same time, like just on a personal level, I was kind of in this place where I was like, it just felt like I was consuming content all of the time, all of the time, and I
mhm,
really wanted to. I'd never created anything to like be consumed by others, and so I was like, "Look, I just want to try it." And it wasn't long before I had, a prototype of literally just a ball moving like in an arc, like you would hit it. There wasn't even a batter. It was just like, can I just make it go in an arc and make it look like it's the ball was hit?
mhm.
And once I had that, and I was like, okay, like now I just need to build around that. And slowly and surely over time, it's kind of like building a giant Lego set. You have to build, you build each of the things. And um, so yeah, it was a journey. And this is my first time ever making a game. So
Mhm.
um, it's been, it's more work than I thought.
Yeah. Mhm.
There's been a lot of times where I'm just like, oh my God, like I'm never going to get this done. Like it's too
Yeah.
much. It's too much for one person.
Mhm.
Um, and I just, you know, I'd give up that day, but then the next day I'd just sit down and start plugging away again. And so eventually you do that long enough and you'll get it out the door.
Yeah, video game development quite hard, from what
Yeah.
from what I discerned from just having eyes and being
Yes.
alive on the planet for 28 years
Yeah.
in my
There's a
case.
lot of things that can just go wrong all the time.
Yeah, and I know, and I see you tweeting like, "Hey, there's some bug fixes that
Oh,
get to." I can imagine that pops up a lot. What is
yeah.
like can you talk about that really quickly before we get back
Yeah.
to the game? Just the logistics of like, when you're working on this, and that's another thing is that it also is really important to remind people that like all games have like updates, apps have updates, and like I think that it's really interesting how this stuff things will just appear, bugs will just appear, like but being by yourself, like how do you kind of approach that?
Yeah. I think one of the hardest things is getting enough information from individuals, right? Like
Mhm,
you get like a spectrum of responses when you push an update. Now all of a sudden the game operates a little bit differently, so you're looking for new things. And um, you might just be like someone who's just like, my game is glitching, and I'm like, that doesn't give me
yeah,
anything.
exactly, yeah,
Or they'll be like, there's an issue with uh, stealing bases, and it's like, okay, I need even more information. What was happening just prior to that?
mhm.
So there's just a lot of things. There's a lot of variables,
'Cause
and so
it's not just stealing bases, it's that the input commands when you
yeah.
press it at this point, and then there's, like, the 8th line of I'm talking probably like a novice, like, the
No,
8th
it's
line of code for the 12th sector or whatever, like,
and
it's, like,
it's
very specific, I imagine.
and there are things that like every frame that gets generated when the game is running, there's
Mhm,
code running. And
mhm,
so you might press a button and it's on a certain frame, and then the next frame something else has completely changed, and now so it's like when people do a certain thing, um, can make a difference, and it's so hard to tell how exactly it is getting into that state. And so a lot of the times, like I'm like, yeah, these are legitimate bugs, and I need to figure them out. But until I can reproduce them myself, and then I can go into the back end and say like, okay, where are all of these variables? What are they at? And why is the code getting confused and this weird thing happening? So it's like
Mhm.
until I can reproduce it, and that was one of the biggest early bugs was people were they couldn't continue their saves and it was getting weird stuff happening, but like I could not get it to happen on my device. I literally had another game developer who I met through releasing my game and just talking on Twitter and stuff like that, and he had it installed and he was doing things and then he'd get a bug and he would send me his save files, and then I
Mhm.
was able to like take that save file, put it on my system, and then like reverse engineer it. And so it yeah, it was crazy. I that was the first couple weeks after launch were like chaos, but
I can imagine,
I
yeah.
guess that's to be expected with it's my first game. Like there was so
Yeah.
much that I just you have to you have to run through the brick wall in order to get to the other side. And I wish it was smoother. Like that part has been really tough. Like, you know, seeing some of the feedback and people being like, this game's not ready for release and stuff like they're not wrong. There was some big issues
Yeah.
and that didn't get caught during testing, and that's just part of it. What I mean, I wish it were different, but it's not. So
When it comes to the game, which is a simulation style game, obviously it's not just people, it's easier for people to just look up the footage itself. It looks great. All the animations are great. I assume that's just your voice, by the way,
no,
calling the strikes and whatnot.
no,
No,
that's
it isn't.
Kofi. Do you know Kofi
Oh, yes, of
from
course I
like
know
Fumble
Kofi.
Dimension and
Yes, of
yeah, yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah,
From Secret Base. Yeah, love
yeah,
Kofi.
Secret Base. Yep,
Shout out.
yep.
That's funny.
Um,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, it was like a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Mhm.
I had been put stuff out on social media pretty early, and had started to get a little bit of feedback. And I just saw him on Twitter one day. He was like, "Oh man, I want to do some voice acting for video games." So I sent him a message. I was like, "Hey, you want to like do the umpire voice for my game?" He's like, "Yeah." Um, and that was that. I mean, he was a huge reason why like it helped jumpstart that initial like social media following, because he already
Mhm.
had he's got
Right.
a huge audience, and so that was like a godsend. I mean, I don't think I'd be where it is today without Kofi for sure.
It's funny because as soon as you said it, I was like, "Duh." Like
Yeah.
I hear it right now. That's so funny because when I was first listening to it and playing the game myself, I was like, "Yeah, all right." Like I mean, I haven't heard you speak beforehand, and then
Yeah.
I just when you logged on the call as I'm getting ready for this interview, I'm like, is it him?" And I'm just like, "Is he like putting on some, like Daniel Day-Lewis and like just changing it
No.
up a little bit?" And I was a
No.
little bit confused by that. Shout out to Kofi, does great content, and that also is on brand, given that he loves covering
Yeah.
baseball video games.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, when it comes to simulation, let's say, versus like, I don't know what the other version of that would be. Like, let's say if you're playing MLB The Show, right? Like you're in
Sure.
the middle of the game and you're doing the actions, you're throwing the pitches, you're doing the swings. Like, what do you think is like what's a summary, a brief synopsis of like the difference between that versus if you had made like the little directional buttons, a button thing, and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Is that just so logistically not where you're at right now, or was it that you were just like, I genuinely think that the simulation route is just really rad?
Yeah, I think the because it was my first game, I was like, I need to focus on making a game I can make,
Mhm.
right? A lot of times you'll see like indie developers, I see it all the time on Reddit. They're like, oh, I'm quitting my job. It's my first ever game, and I want to make this like massive game, this huge scope. And it's like, I knew that like I was gonna have to keep it simple. So yeah, the gameplay is definitely designed to be simple. That's why you can play through a game with just there's basically only tap commands, right? You tap to swing the bat and you tap to advance runners, and that's really it. Like
Mhm.
there's not a whole lot that goes into it, um, and that was very intentional on my part because I wanted simple gameplay. I wanted like a fast gameplay loop. A lot of baseball games can be really long. Um, a lot of other like baseball games on the market,
Right.
um, it can take like 20 minutes to get through a single game, and like the older I got, the less time I had for a game like that.
Mhm,
You know, back when I was in school, I used to play MLB The Show every day after school, and I
mhm.
could play through 3 games a night or something like that. You know what I mean? And I don't have time for that anymore. But I still wanted that like franchise building experience. So that was really how the gameplay sort of came to be.
Yeah, it's really, really cool, man. And I'm also curious, I guess, furthering on to that, just some of the game features itself. Like, it's not just the baseball stuff. You also added a little bit of like fan morale and raising
Yeah.
ticket prices. That's certainly a thing that we're into in real life baseball. Like, what was kind of the inspiration behind that and making it
Yeah.
like that you're not just an owner in terms of picking the players and whatnot, but also putting together all that like background stuff that maybe isn't as flashy, but is really quirky and kind of fun.
Yeah. It was kind of like you ever see those like they're like memes or diagrams or whatever, but it's like a triangle, and at each point of the triangle, there's like a thing, and it was like, oh, if you want to be into this, you can only ever have two or something like that. Like for game dev, it was like energy, motivation, and time, but like
Mhm,
you usually only have two. But you kind of need all three to really like get a lot of stuff done.
mhm,
But anyway, so yeah, the idea with that was kind of a throwback to it's actually on my list for later, MVP Baseball 2005.
mhm.
There was some of that in there. And I just thought it was a cool feature. I'm not usually like a huge fan of morale for sports games,
Mhm,
especially when it like gets to impacting on-field performance. Like I know some games, you know, they'll be like, oh, so and so's unhappy and now his like stats are you know are like nerfed.
mhm.
I never really liked that. It always felt kind of
Okay.
gimmicky, and but I took that same concept but tied it to like your post game reward. So after you play a game, you get so much in-game currency, but you can get multipliers to that by having a happy team or having a really happy fan base. Um, and so that can come from winning games or having low ticket prices and low concession prices. Um, and then the sort of the flip for that is in order to make your team ownership happy, um, you have to raise prices. And so you're constantly trying to balance like keeping your owner happy or keeping your fans and your players happy. Um, and in a way, you have to make someone mad. And there's sort of a catch 22 there, I guess. You can't have it all.
I'm now wondering, because and speaking of simulation stuff, I did, and when I reached out to you, I brought this up too. I did a feature article and talked with some people over at Blaseball, the now defunct
Yep.
Blaseball game. Did you come across that? Because that was a game that instead of taking it took the quirkiness and whatnot, like this is randomly generated players, but it kind of like it was like if you dipped that into like cotton candy and then
Yeah.
spun it into a thing. Everybody go check out my article I did for them over at justbaseball.com. I'll probably link that in the description too. Um, with all of this, you have a little bit in there though. And the first thing that comes to mind is the hot dog dome, right? Like that being one of them, right? Like I
Yeah.
just love these stadiums and whatnot. I was actually wondering, like, if the Big Dome is, are any of these like references to maybe some stadiums of past? Like Big Dome, my first instinct was, I was like, is this a Kingdom type of thing from Seattle?
Oh,
Like, I didn't know if that was what you were going for there, but I guess like when it comes to this, what are some like funny, like anecdotes maybe
sure.
about the game that you've gotten, whether it be from players and like, hey, I got a character who for some reason had the last name Heinsohn, right? Like whatever,
Right.
like
Yeah.
from a league of their own, and they were really good or really bad. Hilariously enough, like have you gotten any fun like kind of
Oh
moments like
yeah.
that?
Yeah. I think for the stadiums, like the big dome is sort of it inspired by stadiums from like the 80s, you know, like um I don't know all the names of them, but like the Phillies old stadium, or just sort of that. It's turf, and it's like the outfield wall is super round and pretty tall, and so like some of those are just inspired by a bunch of different places.
Mhm.
The hot dog dome, that was actually like a fan recommendation. So a while back, even before release, I did like a community art contest, And there's two stadiums in the game that were drawn by fans, and they're actually like really good. Um, and someone messaged me and they were like, "Can I make a hot dog dome?" And I was like, "What?" Or a hot dog field. And I was like, "What is a hot dog field?" And he was like, "It's a stadium, but everything is hot dog related." And I was like, "Yeah, if you want to, like that, sure, that'd be funny." And then he was like, "I don't really have like the art skills to do it." And I was like, the more I sat and thought on it, I was like, "Oh my god, if everything in the stadium was a hot dog, like the foul pole and the scoreboard and all the fans are wearing hot dog costumes and like and people love it." So it's just like, I think once I hit that point, I was like, just lean into like some of the goofiness, you know. Um, there is there's a ton of in-game breaking news events.
Mhm.
They're generally the commissioner of the league has been fired because he or she did something really dumb. Those are usually references to like shows I really like. Um, some of it is like in real life stuff or like inspired by in real life baseball stuff, things that have happened. The injuries are all just like absurd. They never happen on the field. It's always something
Yeah.
like,
And in fairness, baseball, a sport known for
yeah,
ridiculous injuries. I've seen
yeah,
dizziness as a reason for why someone
yeah.
didn't play a game before. Shout out Mark Teixeira. But
I mean, I remember a while back, Jonas Cespedes, when he broke both of his ankles in what
Cespedes, you said?
yeah,
Wha-
they
I don't.
described it as a wild boar incident.
Oh
Uh,
yes, the wild boar incident.
yeah.
How could I forget?
So
Yes.
like stuff like that, I tried to have fun with it.
That's amazing. I'm wondering, you mentioned that there's two fan designs in the game that you kind of had incorporated. What was the other one?
So there was the cornfields and Highland Park. Um,
Right.
yeah, the one with the sunset and there's like the city in the back. I mean, they're really
Mhm.
good. Both
Yeah.
of them did a
I think the art
fantastic
is
job.
fantastic, man.
Yeah,
Like, that was what I wanted to get into kind of a little bit too, is like, I think it's great. I actually thought you were gonna say the Bananas Foster, dome, that
oh,
was one, but and it's funny because just the other day, I was at IHOP, and the flavor of the month is Bananas
Bananas
Foster.
Foster.
So I was like, "What? Okay." So that's pretty funny. I love the art style, man, and again, this might be just because I and maybe you find this too, there's just, like, a real love for, like, 8-bit like
Yeah,
art, pixel art, let's call it that. Like that's just I think one of the big selling points potentially on this game from an aesthetic purpose is that like simplicity works. And I think
yeah,
that with video games for me, I wonder if you find this to be the same too. I think it's a little bit like animated movies where old animation, it's not going to age as poorly. Whoops, as Tatis falls. Hopefully that wasn't an omen. As old movies, their animation, it's not going to age poorly. And if you
yeah,
see a movie in the 1970s, at least in terms of like something that's going for visual flair, so like if there's an alien spaceship battle in the 70s and current versus now, it's going to feel off unless it's like really good, like Star Wars, Independence Day, etc. And I feel like video games is a little bit of the same, where we're seeing this kind of, dare I say, like an arms race of like who's going to be the most realistic because that's what goes viral. You know what I mean?
right.
Everybody wants to see that. But for me, I know people still love Mario Baseball. I
Yep.
forget Mario Baseball. Nintendo is still big. They don't make hyper realistic graphics where I can see, like in Call of Duty, the individual serial number on a gun.
Yeah,
And yet they sell super well. They're timeless and they fundamentally work, I think. Have
yeah,
you found that was that like a little bit of an inspiration behind the game where you were like, you know what, man? Like, I want to really just make something that just full, like, it's just never going to, no one's going to look at this and be like, in 20 years, wow, the graphics look bad. They
right.
can be like, oh, cool. This is like its own genre.
Yeah. No, there's I definitely fall into that aspect where I'm like, I don't care about graphics. I
Hmm.
care more about like art direction
Hmm.
and intentionalness
Hmm.
in their designs. But I agree, like there's a lot of older games I still think play better. NFL 2K5 plays better than any Madden in the last 20 years. Um,
Yeah.
like eh, I would still play it today if I could. So yeah, there was a lot of that, and part of that was like, okay, I don't have a budget. This is just me in my free time. What and I'm not an artist by nature. So like it took me a while to find like my signature in that way. With the art, I went through a lot of iterations with like the player faces and stuff like that, like trying to get it to look decent. Um, and the on-field stuff, like with the tiny little guys, the animation and stuff there, that took a long time too to get right. A lot of it was placeholders early on until I just really had the time to sit there and go through it. But it is interesting. Like uh, you were mentioning, like old, animation, cartoons and stuff like that. Like I have such a different appreciation for it now after going through that and kind of very rudimentarily learning it. I think my wife had like Fantasia on the other day, like back when it was like everything was hand drawn. And
Hmm.
you're just like, this is phenomenal.
Hmm.
And in a lot of ways, we're kind of losing that art form. Um, but some people do it intentionally. Like you look at a game like Cuphead, right,
Yeah.
where they literally drew the whole game frame by frame, instead of doing like digital animation or something like that. I think that's cool. I think it can work. I think games that go with a stylized art style will always age better than games that are chasing high fidelity graphics, for that very reason, because you could plop it next to 10 other games, and because it is um, like stylistically its own, not trying to be hyper realistic, it's not going to age differently.
Hmm.
um, Cuphead's a good example. I think like Dead Cells is a good example. Like uh, there's a lot of games that do it well. But yeah, that was definitely intentional.
Gotcha, man. Really love that. Uh, Pixel love. I appreciate it
Yeah.
so much. I'm wondering, I kind of saved this one a little bit. What was the hardest, like, if you had like a specific feature, specific mode, specific thing, what do you think was like the hardest thing you think about designing the game? It could also be outside the game, maybe getting it advertised, all that sort of stuff, like creating that, whichever aspect of this whole experience. What do you think was the most difficult?
It still is the most difficult. It's the base running logic.
Mm.
It sucks. I hate it. I've rewritten it like 3 times since the beginning of the game, and it's still very much a work in progress. It was like I was trying to get it to this point where I felt this is just good enough to release. But I kind of alluded to this earlier, where like one frame something can be true, and the next frame something isn't, but you made the decision on the last frame. Base running is kind of like that. It's really there's just a lot of variable. There's a lot of variables, and that's sort of sort of like specific to baseball itself. I feel like some other sports are maybe not as um, potentially difficult to know at any given
Right.
moment what people should be doing. I think that's the hard thing, is the disconnect for you know um, players of the game, and me as the developer is like, as a player you're like, oh well, they should just tag up and
Hmm.
it should know that. But like
Yeah.
having the data model that's underlying all
Hmm.
of it is not mature enough yet to understand all of these little edge cases, and so
Yeah, I
a lot of
imagine it's
work
almost
there.
like ball escapes infield, run. How do you tell it? Well, if it sort of gets there, run, but
Right.
only a little bit. Like that, I can imagine immediately. And it actually made me remember. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Angry Video Game Nerd. By any
Oh
chance, this is a
yeah.
little bit of a
Yeah,
deep
yeah.
cut. Yeah, James Rolfe. Like he did an Atari sports video back in the day, and the sports that were easily the weirdest were the baseball ones. It kind of tracks. I imagine football too, but football, I could see a world in which, like, let's like cheat it a little bit. Just don't have a full. 12 on or 11 on 11, just have like
Right,
receiver here, guy runs around, you throw it. Like maybe I could see that for baseball. There is a degree of like this guy has to pitch. Those other guys in the outfield are not base runners. You have to
right.
distinguish the two. So I can only imagine like how uh maddening, I guess at some points it could be.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be very tricky to, like, walk through the code, and try to improve it for one situation, but not totally break it for another.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's very tricky.
Absolutely, man. Last question about the game I want to ask you about. For those who don't know, the reason I came across this beauty is not because of Kofi. It is not because of my video game addiction, which has been waning these days. You know what I mean? I'm kind of a little bit more casual, which is why I think this worked for me in a lot of ways. But I discovered it because of a Jeff Passan retweet. That's how I found this in the first place. Can you talk about that? Because that's literally how I found it. I am someone who covers baseball, as many do. Some people who don't even cover baseball. I have notifications on. Duh.
Yeah.
Because it could be breaking news. The Padres just did blank. Breaking news. This, then that. Blah blah blah. What was that like? Kind of like, because I imagine that must have brought like a lot of attention and
Oh, yeah.
ended up bringing me as well.
Yeah, so that, you know, that happened very fast. A
Yeah.
couple of weeks prior to that, I I was trying to envision, like, okay, how do I build hype for the game towards release, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I was like, oh, I could just tweet stuff every day and be really annoying on Twitter. Um, and that's one way, like with a limited budget, right? And so then I was like, well, maybe I can find people who I can like get into their DMs and try and be like, hey, I'm trying to do this thing, you know.
Mhm.
And that is not what happened with Jeff, by the way. I tried that a while back and I didn't get a response. And I don't blame him. He's a busy guy and
Yeah.
he probably gets tons of messages like that all the time.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Um, and at that point in time, I had the release build ready to go. It was sitting in the app stores, basically waiting for me to hit the button to release it. Um, and I was just waiting for my release date to get there. And I happened to be chatting with some people in my Discord. You know, they were asking, I forget how it even came up, and um, they were like daring me to release the game early or something. And I was like, if you can get Jeff Passan to retweet about Bitball, I will release it right now. Because I was like, there's no way. It was during spring
Right.
training and
Yeah.
like just started. I was like, there's no way like it's gonna hit Jeff's phone and he's gonna see this and do anything other than like, what the heck is that? And just like, you know, shoo it away. And that was, when I originally had the idea a couple weeks ago or a couple weeks prior, I ran it by my wife and she was like, don't do that. Like, you're just going to annoy the guy and then you're just going to like make a weird enemy with like the biggest guy in baseball, you know? And I was
Mhm.
like, yeah. And then because I was like, there's no way, like, it's not going to happen. And then literally within 30 minutes, it happened. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm releasing my game today.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but Jeff was really cool about it. Like we DM'd a little bit after
Mhm.
that, and I really appreciate it because it brought a lot of eyeballs to the game. And Yeah, he was already like the goat, in baseball, and
Yeah.
fully cemented in my book.
Absolutely, man. It's just very funny. And he added the Simpsons gif, release the hounds. That was
Yeah,
part of it too, which was very funny.
yeah,
Yeah, just a crazy moment, I imagine. Like it's very like the meme of like when you see these pop up every now and then, not as much these days because the internet is less fun, but it'll be like, hey, if you get 4,000 likes on this, you guys don't have to take your final. And then it
yeah.
happens, and
And
you're
then it
like, what?
happens.
Like, you're like,
Yeah,
wait, what?
no, it
Excuse
was
me?
it was just like that, and I was just like, "No, this whole thing feels so surreal." Like,
Mhm,
I I've never done anything like this. I don't make stuff and show it
mhm.
to a bunch of people, and so, this has been a very interesting experience from that regard. It doesn't feel real. I don't know how else to describe it. My brain cannot comprehend it. Um, it it almost feels like
Yeah,
Bitball made
your brain
itself.
is imploding as we speak. You're like, "Oh my
Yeah,
gosh."
it's like Bitball made itself, and I'm just the guy who like presses the button to push it out to everybody. It's super weird. It's the best way I can describe it.
Hey, if it means anything, that sentiment right there is exactly what the baseball folks said. Like they were saying the same thing. They were like, we just kind of did this as a bit, and
Yeah, and it took
somewhat pun
off.
intended, somewhat pun intended, and then it took off, and it's like an internet sensation. Wishing you the best on this, man. Absolutely love it.
Thank
Super
you.
a bunch. Everybody go check it out in the App Store, in the Android store, whatever sort of mobile store you're rocking. Go check it out. It's there. It's a lot of fun. I recommend it very much. Me personally, I am a favor of the podcasts with this playing in the background combo. That tends
Okay.
to be really good. Maybe a baseball podcast, perhaps mine, perhaps the Just
Yeah,
Baseball Show, whatever. Go do that. You will not regret it. But now, man, want to have a little bit of fun and talk about
sure.
baseball video games a little bit more generally and talk about just the many features that baseball video games have seen over the years, from the small, which I'm going to have a very ridiculous one in a little bit, to the bigger ones as well. And I think that it's just really fun because while yes, everybody likes to be like, I'm going to play with the Red Sox. I'm using Garrett Crochet, and oh well, fine. Well, I'm going to go up to you with the Dodgers lineup, and we'll see what happens. I want to play as Otani. There's also fun, like unique features that baseball games have come up with over the years. Basketball, all of them as well, don't get me wrong. But baseball, that's why I want to focus on our 5 favorite features game modes from baseball video games, our top 5. Matt, would you like to start us off and talk about
Sure.
one that is cemented
Yeah.
in your heart for a long time?
I think my first is Road to the Show and MLB The Show.
Mm,
Like what better way, like when you're a kid you dream of that, right? Like if you're playing baseball, and so I think they did a really good job capturing that. And I'm not like a baseball video game, historian. To my knowledge, that was like one of the first games to have a mode like that. But I always enjoy Road to the Show.
mhm. Um, Road to the Show, man, I'm gonna save my thoughts on it because it makes my list. So I'm gonna save it for just a
Okay.
little bit.
All right.
But let me bring up my number 5, which is using real players in the backyard sports games. Obviously, in this case
Mm,
being baseball. Now, here's the thing. As an adult now, that's like the part that I don't care about because I'm like, whatever. I want to play as Pablo Sanchez. That's unique. I want to play as all the weird pitchers and the person in like a cane or whatever like quirks that
yeah,
these kids had, and then they're walking up and for some reason you're hitting bombs the way they lollygag and whatnot.
yeah.
Like they all read like Crash Bandicoot. But when I was a kid, there was something about it to be like, oh my god, I have Derek Jeter or
I got
whatever it
Ken
was, right?
Griffey.
Like
Yeah.
I have Ken Griffey. There was an allure for games that are pretty much targeted towards kids, right? Like that was kind of your elementary beginner step into the sport. So
Yep.
I think that's what did it for me. And it's not now. Now this wouldn't make my list, but this is an
Right.
all-time thing. In the moment, I'd be like, oh my God, look, I'm gonna use Jeter, or when I'm playing against my friend on his computer, and we have to be like, no, man, you only get one pro player, you only get one, coming up with like arbitrary rules, they draft, I draft. There's something about it that like made me feel closer to the sport very weirdly. Some
Yep.
mass psychosis going on here that if you just have a bunch of random made up children basically playing this game and a pro player, I all of a sudden feel like they're my friend. You know what I mean? Especially when I'm younger. So that is my number 5 feature, the real life players that, and it's not all of them, but some of them, the big stars, whoever it was any given year in the backyard baseball games. Matt, what are you rocking for your number 4?
My next one is, and this is Bitball is inspired in this way, the crazy injuries in out of the park baseball.
Yes.
The just
Yes.
absolute, the got attacked by a shark, and just the nonsense stuff. I think it's hilarious. It sucks when one of your guys gets hurt. Um, it's never easy. It throws you into the loop, and you're trying to figure out a way forward. But like when it's just absurd, I don't know why. It just hits right.
Oh, 100%, man. Look, that's the name of the game. It's not fun when it happens to you and whatnot, but like, let's be honest, especially in a video game, you don't have to feel bad. You don't
Right.
have to be like, wait, why am I laughing at this? This is kind of messed up. I don't want to laugh. And every now and then you can to a certain extent. I brought up the dizziness with Mark Teixeira the other day, which is my dad texts me about that to this day. being like, do you remember when someone missed a game because of dizziness? Or like you have like the Chris Sale injury, or you have the really horribly timed injuries like in baseball with Devin Williams of the Milwaukee Brewers last year,
Oh
like,
yeah.
or 2 years ago, that he messed up his hand right into the playoffs. But you're right. There's something about it. It'll be like drowned in quicksand, whatever the heck they came up with in that game. It's been a while since I checked that one out, but the freakish Looney Tunes ass like injuries and out of the park baseball. I also had this on my list. It was actually my number 4. So
Oh
boom,
wow.
we're the
All
exact
right.
same
We're on.
old
Yeah,
school
we're on the
injuries.
same page.
Exactly. And just to add on, I guess just a little bit like again, it's just one of the more fun things. I was thinking of making this for the video game Baseball, which I brought up a lot on this. That I was thinking of that version because they get a little bit more crazy. I only chose Out of the Park because you can't really see the Baseball stuff the same anymore, right? With the game now shut down, so I just wanted to pick something that you could actually technically still like have some access to aside from like archival footage. So shout Out of the Park Baseball, man. The more cartoony, the better. Let me tell you, I love it so much. I remember like do you remember Pogo games by any chance? You remember that site
Mm,
Pogo? It's an old one, and my dad and I
was it
used to
like a
play it.
Flash
It
Games
was like a
site or
flash
something?
game thing, and I've been trying to
Oh
find it.
no.
There was like a home run derby one, and
Okay.
like the pitcher got more comically large. You know what I mean? Like Dellin Betances when he was on the Yankees. My dad texted me like, "This is the final boss." Like that's what he looks like. So that's just like a little bit of an honorable mention. I only put that there because I don't remember what the game was called exactly. So shout out Pogo and their little word mole and all their weird games that they had over there. Sweet Tooth was another one that I liked. Anyway, Matt, what is your number 3 since we had both had the same number 4?
Number 3 was, I alluded to this earlier as well. In MVP Baseball 2005, you could do like promotional nights. So you could say like this game, this bobblehead day,
Oh,
the Red Sox are
right.
coming into town, or the Dodgers or whoever. You could
Mhm.
do Hawaiian t-shirt night, or free hat night, or whatever. I always thought those were like cool little features to kind of like make you feel like you were actually,
Yeah, more
um, you
immersive.
know, running. Yeah, much more immersive.
Love that very much. I think that if there's one thing that's happened with sports games, the mainstay ones, let's call it 2K, the show, for every sport, by the way, every sport, but particularly Madden, I find, is that like the little modes are just not there as much anymore. I
Yeah.
remember an NBA game. It was called The Inside, was one of the series. It was like NBA 08, 07, The Inside. And they had so many fun little modes. One of them was like Conquest, basically, where you'd like
Mhm.
start with a team, and if you beat another team, you could get one of their players. And it's like every team's making a move and all that stuff. They don't really
Hmm.
have that. Maybe they do in the recent 2K. I'm not sure. And that was so fun. I'd pick like the Chris Paul Hornets. And then if you lose, you lose. You have to restart the whole thing.
Yep.
And then, oh, well, I lost with my B team. So it continues on and on. And they had
Hmm.
like a pinball machine as well, where it was like, sorry about that, folks. We just had a little bit of a doggo being doggo incident. But what I really liked about the inside was also like they had this like pinball machine, and it was like
Hmm.
NBA style, and you could just play it as a mini game. You could play like Jailbreak. The game where you like hit the ball off the paddle and then it
Oh
like
yeah.
breaks the bricks slowly.
Like
Like
Brick
they had that
Breaker,
for
or
basketball.
yeah.
Yeah, Brick Breaker, stuff like that. They had that in there, and I've noticed that the games don't have as many of those, like, quirky, little silly things, and I get it. Devs are really demanding now,
Yeah.
publishers more so, I think. So they're
Oh
like, "You
yeah.
know what?
It's
Put it
it's
all
the
into the."
suits. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's the
the suits.
suits a little bit, you know what I mean? Not you, though, because you have a hot dog stadium, man, and you're out here letting people raise ticket prices and getting everybody upset. So that's not the case with Bitball. My number 3 is also from MVP Baseball. I think I'm gonna put it number 3 anyway. Another thing about me during these lists, whenever I do on the podcast, I always change the order in the midst of it. So I might change it at the end. But for me, number 3, the old ballparks in
Mm.
MVP baseball. This, I think, ages kind of weird to say that, but it ages phenomenally. MVP baseball being one of them, 2005. I just love not just that it's old ballparks, but they have the grainy footage too.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and I think unlike my first entry, which I don't like as much now that I'm older, this one I love the older that I am. It's just like the creativity there to be like I'm using, Ted Williams and I'm
Yeah.
playing in some ballpark where it looks like you can see a farm in the background. And you're like, what is this? It's like so like lack of industrialized vibes to it, and
It
the grainy footage.
it
You can bring
elicits a
in
feeling.
yeah, exactly. You can bring in a modern player and put him there. You can put in the old player, like just that. Especially though, the old ballpark, the old aesthetic. I'm gonna say for this, especially with MVP baseball, getting as close as you can to being like, hey, what if? Because it's one thing if you just have a custom player that you call Ted Williams
Right.
and then you set the stats, but they are all enhanced by the graphics, so it's not the
Right.
same. You know what I mean? With this, it's like, yeah, they got the poofy, clothes and whatnot, the different uniforms. They don't do it how they used to, man. I don't know. They
No.
don't do it quite like they used to. But that is my number 3 entry. What do you got next for us at I think number 2
Number
or number
2.
number 2? Okay.
Number 2, special bats and special pitches in backyard baseball.
Yeah.
The screaming line
Yeah.
drive, the crazy bunt, the aluminum bat, like, give me that.
It's so
That's
cool.
something that I
It's
don't
so
think
cool.
I don't think that's ever gonna be in Bitball, but there might be like a equipment thing in the future
Mm,
where like you could use certain bats or certain cleats or gloves or something to enhance your players. So
we
we'll see.
love that, man. There gonna be any speaking of my answer as well, there gonna be new maybe stadiums perhaps coming in the
Oh
future?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
Okay.
plan to like continually. They're a lot of fun. Once I have an idea, it's fun to just sit down and draw.
Mhm.
So yeah, definitely gonna keep building out more and more
Hey.
stadiums.
Hey, if you do anything that's a relation to the Padres, I won't be upset, is all I'm saying. I won't be upset. I'll be like, "You know what?
I could
That's
take a
pretty
little
good."
inspiration, you know?
Maybe just the building supply company part,
Yeah,
just
or
that
the
one brick,
Crone
just that
Zone
one
or
little thing, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah, Crone Zone. Very much appreciate that. My number 2, which I agree with yours 100% with the backyard baseball stuff. That was all it's so easy to get into that, especially as a kid, like, the fireball, okay, cool.
yeah,
Like, let's make this very cartoonish and then, like, the slivering and all that stuff. I forgot exactly what the animations it looked like and whatnot, but the special bats too, that's what it's all about. I feel like baseball, that's what I like about sports games in general is like make them cartoony, make them arcadey.
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember playing NFL Blitz once, drunk with my friends, and it was the most exciting time of my life. I thought we were like watching an anime, practically. It was so cool. And I think backyard baseball is just one example that touches on that. But my number 2 is a cheat, Matt. This is a little
Okay.
bit of a cheat, but it does touch on what I'm getting to. It is fighting the evil Babe Ruth monster thing from Ninja Baseball Batman. If you've ever heard of
Wow,
this
I've
game,
never heard of that. I'm gonna look that up though.
go look up. I brought
What
up the Angry
era?
Video Game Nerd earlier. I brought up James Roll's video.
Okay.
He did a video on this, and I did find an emulator. Someone hooked it up for me once. I did play this. And frankly, you don't even have to play it. It's basically the most ingenious game idea ever. They call it Batman because it is a guy with a bat. But they
Oh,
knew what they were doing. You know what I
yeah,
mean? They said
yeah.
they were cranking up that SEO before it was cool, right? And the final boss in the game is like this minotaur death hound thing that's like called the Babe or the King. I forgot what it is
Uh,
exactly. And it is clearly a reference to Babe Ruth. And I just think that's amazing. You know what I mean? Like that's the final boss of the game. Imagine playing like an NBA side scroller game where you're throwing the ball at people, you're using it as a glove and hitting people, and the
yeah.
final boss is like the Dragon Jordan or whatever. And it's just this flying tick. That's basically the equivalent. And I
Okay.
just love it very much and want to have it on my list. So shout out Ninja
What is
Baseball
it?
Batman.
Evil Batman?
It's like evil Babe Ruth. I forgot to Google this before I started actually. Ninja Baseball Batman is the name of the game though.
Ninja Baseball Batman. Okay.
It's the most ridiculous
Oh
thing
my
ever.
god.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking at pictures
That's
of it right
everyone's
now.
reaction whenever they see this thing. They're like, "Oh my
No, that
gosh,
looks
yes."
sick.
It's amazing.
That looks
It is the
awesome.
final boss
All right.
in the game. It's great. It's a shame that it never got the same like kind of exposure that it deserved, right? Like it should. Yeah, it's called the King Babe is what it's
The
called by the
King
way.
Babe. Okay.
There's like there's like enemies where like a bunch of balls come together and form a person. There's like balls with batting gloves, like very weird stuff. Like it's all over the place. And go check out the AVGN
The
video if
art
you want
is
like a
great.
fun little thing on it. So Ninja
Yeah, yeah.
Baseball Batman, I will always shout you out forever. You should have been given more arcade cabinets. They let you down. It would have been a hit. What do you have though, Matt? for your number one favorite baseball video game feature of all
Uh,
time.
Number one is fights and Slugfest.
I forgot
I
about
mean,
this one.
do you remember like you would just be running, you'd be excuse me, you'd be like sitting on base and they would try to pick you off and then you would just like boom, just like smash the dude for no reason. Like it was just fun, man. That was just a fun game. You just hit bombs, punch dudes, slide into them and kick them, and yeah, that was just always fun.
And I just looked it up right now. It's also really fun that these are games that like you can fight, and the box art is like of MLB Slugfest 2004. It's A-Rod on the Rangers, and then this like shadowy image of him looking in the background, like really adding like some menacing, sinister vibe to it.
Yeah,
Everybody
holy
look this
cow.
up. Just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. I remember this as well. Obviously, when I was growing up, no one's ever playing the game. You're just getting into a fight the entire time.
Yeah,
That's what everybody's
yeah,
doing. And hilariously enough, literally a more justifiable reason for when most baseball fights end up happening, which is usually like you flip the bat wrong. This,
yeah.
it's like, let's just go. It's like hockey style with you and your friends. So that is a really fun number one. My number one is already been mentioned. It is Road to the Show in Major League Baseball. This is the addiction drug of sports video games. If I have lost entire like 7 hours of my life because you just skip to the at bats, then you're like, well, I need to go to another one. I went 2 for 4. I start looking at my stats and pretending, where would I get drafted if this was fantasy baseball? You know what I
Yep.
mean? Oh, I'm a 30-30 guy this year. I've got, only 10 home runs so far. What would you start creating the narrative for yourself too?
Right.
I know everybody out there, they're pretending to know. Of course you do. You start imagining, what would I say if I was to the media right now? Like, what
Yeah.
if I was this beast baseball player? It does the imagination story for you and then gives you the gameplay, even if you aren't like that, to just be like, I just want to keep playing. I want to upgrade my player. My only regret is that not regret. My only shortcoming is that I wish it was a little bit more fleshed out in terms of like the management drama side of things and like the
Hmm.
life of a player. I feel like maybe some years it's been better than others, but I
Yeah.
remember like NBA 2K has had at some points like full blown like storylines, not good, right? But
Right.
even Madden had one. Madden
Yeah.
had one. It was the Tom Brady year where it was like Scott Porter from Friday Night Lights is in it, and I think Mahershala Ali's in it. By the way, everybody go look that up. Shockingly good story, like
Huh.
disturbingly good. Yeah, it's like actually unbelievable, obviously
Wow.
by video game standards. But I was like, I'm kind of into this. I kind of want to be that quarterback on the farm who's like
Yeah. Yeah.
going through weird game shows in order to get a shot. And then you take that player and then you go into your career mode, basically, which is the really fun part of it, or at least you can do that. Really electric stuff, man. But Road to the Show will forever be just the ultimate drug. Make sure you have time. And if you do, sit back, not sim, but play a bunch of games,
Yep.
upgrade your player, and just be in the show. And there's something about it, the ease of it. It is faster than all the other sports. It is going to go quick. You are going to get through games quickly. So if for some reason you don't have time, just squeeze in like 2 games. You can do it in like 5-10 minutes. You really can. That's how quick it is. So MLB The Show, Road to the Show. That is my number one answer. Matt, repeat your list for the good folks one more time.
All right. So I got Road to the Show, crazy injuries in Outside the Park Baseball, promo games in MVP Baseball 2005, special bats and special pitches in Backyard Baseball, and fights in Slugfest.
Absolutely good, sir. Excellent work. Mine is number 5. The real players being used in backyard baseball, backyard sports in general, but backyard baseball. The out of the park baseball injuries, same thing as Matt. And then also the old ballparks at number 3 from MVP Baseball 2005. Fighting Evil Babe Ruth and Ninja Baseball Batman, and Road to the Show from MLB The Show. Great lists, in my opinion. No bias, but whatsoever. Matt, dude, this has been an absolute blast.
Yeah,
Again,
this is super cool. Thanks, man.
absolutely, man. When everybody checks this out, absolutely go check out Bitball. Maybe he's going to have that Padres Stadium in there by the time we finish this. Who knows? Who knows? Matt is a busy man. He's killing it. Congratulations as well on your personal life.
Thank
Everything. You're
you.
a little bit on a hiatus, having yourself a baby. So shouts to you,
Yes.
man. Very,
Yes.
very
Thank
cool.
you.
To celebrate, everybody go check out Bitball. I will link in the description where you can check out the link tree where you can buy on your kind of platform, or you can just check out and download the game. Go support Matt. He does a great job, and we love supporting independent creators on this show. And frankly, a lot of people do, because that's the time that I think that's the stuff we need these days. So
Yeah,
everybody,
I think that's where the world is right now.
absolutely, man. Do you have any final like kind of parting words you want to give for the good people?
Just thank you for sticking with me. If you've played the game, if you've downloaded it, I know it's been a little buggy here and there, but this really is just the start. So I've got a lot of future content updates and stuff that I have planned. It'll just take me a little bit to get there. So, but mostly just thank you. Yeah.
Well said, good sir. And with that all said, that about does it for the first ever 21st episode of Baseball versus the World, a podcast about how baseball relates to the world and how the rest of the world relates to baseball, part of the Just Baseball Media Network. Stay tuned for next time for whatever topic I end up doing. Follow me on Twitter/X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, JAVIIPNO. By the way, go check out Matt on Twitter/X and Blue Sky at Bitball_game if you'd like to keep for updates on him and random tweets about the Diamondbacks. I'm sure. Go check that out for sure. And of course, check out the show account at Baseball vs. World on Twitter and Instagram. And until next time, everybody, stay golden and stay loving everything that has to do outside of not just the numbers and the stuff going on in the field, but everything that is baseball. Take care.